and welcome to the Views Expressed. I'm Makita Keegan, and on this episode, we have a very, very special guest with us. It's Mr. Frank Crimmins. Mr. Crimmins is running for Governor's Council District 2. Welcome to WACA's The Views Expressed, Mr. Crimmins.
Thank you, Makita. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Well, let's just get into it. I have a series of questions that I've been asking all of the Governor's Council candidates, and I'm going to ask you the same set. So first off, who is Frank Crimmins?
Thank you. My name's Frank Crimmins. My legal name's Francis D. Crimmins, Jr. I'm married, father of 4 children. I live in Stoughton, Massachusetts, where my wife and I have raised our children. We have 4 grandchildren. I grew up in town. I happened to go to high school at Severian Brothers High School. After high school, I was lucky enough to win a scholarship to Harvard College. After college, I worked with my father's small real estate and insurance business during the day while I went to law school nights. I graduated from Suffolk University Law School in 1981. I opened up a practice in my hometown of Stoughton after that. I got active in the community right away. I was practicing law in the general practice of law from 1981 to 1992, when I was fortunate enough to be selected by Governor Weld to be a district court judge at the Stoughton District Court. I served as a district court judge from 1992 to 2010, at which time my career had a little pivot because my wife and I were putting 4 kids through college. So we needed a little more money to do that. So I got out of public service, went back to the private practice of law, had some positions in the public service, and continued in that. And to this day, I am a practicing lawyer. I'm the managing member and founder of a estate planning and elder law firm called Ab Initio Elder Law Solutions out of Stoughton. And I've been active in a few things, and I'm running for this position. Thank you.
Fantastic. So now we know a little bit about who you are, Mr. Crimmins. You're running for Governor's Council. I'll ask you a couple of questions about that. First off, for the viewers who may not be familiar, what exactly is the Governor's Council, and why are you running for this position?
The Governor's Council, that was first called the Executive Council in the Massachusetts Constitution of 1780, was that body that was put in place by our founding fathers to make sure that an elected governor did not exceed his or her authority in this awesome task of putting people in charge of the 3rd independent branch of government, which, as you know, at the time, had no equal anywhere in the world. There was no other government on earth that had 3 branches of government, and certainly none that had an independent branch. So that was the Executive Council, later became known as the Governor's Council, as it is today, where there are 8 elected members from 8 different districts whose main function is to act on certain positions that were carved out in the Constitution to give advice and consent to the elected governor in case that governor exceeded his or her authority.
Excellent. So why are you running for this position?
I'm running for this position because the Governor's Council is crucial in putting the people in place that are the most important members of that 3rd branch of government. Our institutions are under attack today. Those institutions include the court system, the judicial branch of government. It's important that we remember we are a government under the rule of law, not the rule of men. Everybody needs to take their part in this rule of law, and it's important for us to have people in that 3rd branch of government, the judicial branch, that know that that branch of government is not supposed to be partisan. It's not the political branch. It's not where people are supposed to get different results based upon what party a particular party is when they come before a court. And it's important to have the best people occupy those positions who want to serve the public, so we maintain the confidence of the public like the founding fathers wanted. That is, we have a system of government where it is operated by the consent of the governed. And the only way the public consents to those laws is to have confidence that those laws are being applied fairly. So I believe in the Constitution, the Massachusetts Constitution, the United States Constitution, and I'm running to reinforce the rule of law and our respect for that rule of law. And how we do that is make sure the people understand that the third branch of government, the judicial branch, is different from the other two branches of government. And that is my biggest goal that I have.
So, Mr. Crimmins, it's interesting, we know that the Governor's Council has been in existence since the 1780s, and its intention was to do exactly what you say. But lately, there's been a lot of commentary and debate around the utility of the Governor's Council. I think folks want to make sure that that the judicial branch is functioning properly, that appointments are made appropriately, but many other states don't have this body. And a lot of folks in the Commonwealth think that this body has outlived its usefulness. Could you share your opinion on some of that talk that's going around right now?
Sure, I respectfully disagree for two reasons. Number one, the reason it's different from the other states is we were one of the first 13 colonies. So our Constitution of 1780 preceded the U.S. Constitution of 1787. So other states had that Constitution to go by. But in 1780, with our Constitution, we called for an executive branch, not a legislative branch body, to make sure there was not excess in the awesome power of the governor. Like if you look at the federal government, for example, the President of the United States will nominate people to serve as justices on the U.S. Supreme Court and the inferior courts. As you know, those nominees go before the U.S. Senate for advice and consent. If they don't get enough votes by the U.S. Senate, they don't take their seats. We have a system where those same people go before an executive branch body that are elected by the people, the 8. Now, I'll take issue with, there was a movement probably 20-something years ago by some in the Commonwealth suggesting that the Governor's Council may have outlived its usefulness. Then when they drilled down, they discovered it was better than they thought when they looked at what the alternatives would be. Some states, for example, have their nominees confirmed by their state Senate. Then in Massachusetts, that would mean you'd have to go through a process with 40 people. I would point out one thing to you, a fairly recent thing in the last few years, for example, when on the occasion that then Governor Baker nominated Judge Sharon Lally to be a judge. And at her confirmation hearing before the Governor's Council, I remember the testimony in support of her that was given by the clerk of the courts, the elected clerk of courts for Plymouth County, Robert Creedon. And Robert Creedon, a former rep and a former state senator, gave a great defense for the role of the Governor's Council when he spoke before that same Governor's Council in support of a request for them to approve the nomination of Judge Sharon Lally. And if you watch that, because it's you can catch it on live streaming on the government channel, mass.gov, go to Governor's Council, see the hearing. It's on YouTube. It's a great defense of why we should have the Governor's Council. And he said it better than I could say it today. And I believe in that, not only for the role that the council plays for judges and clerks, but the role it has for warrants for the state treasury, commutations, advice and consent for members of the parole board, and the other duties of the office, which include the appointment of judges on the Department of Industrial Accidents, the Appellate Tax Board, and et cetera.
So, I think we've heard some interesting arguments for and against, and I think it's good that we hear both at all sides around the utility of the governor's council. So, so that is important information to share. You mentioned a lot of the other things that the governor's council does. Everything from the advice and consent for judges and the industrial accidents board. I guess my question to you, Mr. Crimmins, is what are some of your top issues on governor's council that you care most about, insofar as some of the policies that governor's council is involved in?
The biggest role is defined in the Constitution, and that's to give advice and consent to the governor. When a governor is elected, he or she may form their own judicial nominating committee, but that judicial nominating committee does not vet prospective judges the way that the governor's council does. Because first of all, it's not public. It's not open to the public, and you don't get the same process. The governor's council is public. People have a right to a hearing. And guess what? After that hearing, the person that gets appointed is going to serve longer than that governor. There's only one time you get a chance to really test the mettle of who that person is who is going to be a prospective judge or clerk, and that's at the hearing before the governor's council. And if you watch some of those hearings, you might walk away and form an opinion that they could use a little more vetting at those processes in those hearings to make sure we have the best people to serve in those capacities. So my policy that I'm concerned about is having the best judges and clerks to occupy those very important positions in the court, because the judges and the clerks magistrate are the most important people in the court system. And it is that court system where most people form their opinion about supporting the justice system, the rule of law that we have. The third branch of government that we put these people in is not supposed to be a political branch. And when people think it's a political branch, they lose confidence in that system. I am not running to change a bunch of laws in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. If I wanted to do that, I would run for state representative or state senate or something like that. I'm offering myself as somebody who has been a judge, knows what it takes to be a good judge, has been in the system. I've been a member of the bar since 1981 for almost 43 years. I've been in courts where I was a first justice at Stoughton District Court for 9 years. I was acting first justice at the Fall River Court. I know the differences between the courts. I have represented clients in the different courts, and I know the difference between the type of judge it takes to be a good juvenile court judge, as opposed to a district court judge, as opposed to a superior court judge, probate and family court judge, land court judge, appellate judge, and so on. There are different competencies. Certainly certain things you need for all of those positions. You need someone dedicated to public service, but you need different competencies for those different type of courts. And the Governor's Council is a forum where you have a chance to see what a particular nominee has done that is a good predictor of how he or she will be in the future, sitting in the role that they are nominated for. The Governor's Council has the opportunity to do that. The Judicial Nominating Committee does not have the opportunity to do that. It's a different position. Judicial Nominating Committee takes a big pool, and from that pool, they select a certain number to offer up to the governor so he or she can review those candidates and ultimately decide who to nominate for a particular position. The governor's council has a completely different role. Each counselor represents their district and gives their district members, the public, a chance to weigh in on the particular person being nominated.
Couple of follow-up questions for you. Just to circle back, and you listed off your qualifications too, and that was like one of my questions that I wanted to get into. So we'll talk more about your qualifications for the position in a little bit. But before we do that, I have two follow-up questions for you. The first follow-up question I have for you is that you've stated many times that you want to make sure that the best judges and the best clerk magistrates are selected. And I think you did let us know that governor's council vetting process is public, so folks can see those folks while they're evaluated. But in your opinion, what makes a good judge generally, or a good clerk magistrate?
Somebody who has shown in their career, in their history, that they are dedicated to public service, and they have shown that in the communities that they come from all the diverse backgrounds and communities that they come from. People have an opportunity to excel in their career, but also show what type of person they have, so we can have a gauge on not only their competency, but their temperament and the ability to deal with the public and reinforce the confidence that the public has in the result that people have that will be dealing with them in the future. That's how you do it. You don't just say that somebody, went to this school or that school, someone won some award somewhere, that type of thing. We need people that are going to serve the public. On average, in the era that I was at, judges that were appointed, and I went through the same process, served for at least 15 years. So their tenure exceeds the time of office that the governor will serve. So you have to make sure that you have the best people to do that. And you have to make sure the people that occupy the positions of clerks, magistrate, are held to that same regard, because those are very important positions. Most people in the Commonwealth will have their first interaction in the court with someone, for example, on the district court, that will certainly have more cases that the public will be dealing with than the interactions with the land court, that type of thing. So there are different competencies you need, and the governor's council has the time in the process to check that out, to vet that out. And all you have to do is check out the hearings. They're on live stream TV. Go to mass.gov, Governor's Council, check out the hearings, and you'll see what I mean.
So it's not just competency, but it's also temperament, a combination
Yes.
of
Yes.
Okay. So, and I understand that those are the standards that you would adhere to if you were on governor's council. So the next follow-up question I have is, for a lot of folks, though, it is a public process for these appointments, but there are folks who have been monitoring this public process, and they push back and they say that in past years, the governor's council has been nothing more than a rubber stamp for the governor for these appointments. What do you say about those concerns, and how would you address those concerns if you were elected?
Every case, just like in a courtroom, is case by case. When somebody nominates somebody, It's that individual case. And so to the extent that in the past, there have been people that have gone to the hearing process and someone doesn't ask the question and whatever, even if that particular counselor knows something about the background that the particular nominee in all likelihood would be a great candidate and a great judge or clerk, they owe it to the public to say that at a hearing and say how they have formed that opinion. So the public will have confidence in that. So I would address any nominee the same way I worked on every case that was in front of me as a judge. I handled tens of thousands of matters and made tens of thousands of decisions in a career in the court that lasted 17 and a half years. And on every one of them, the most important case I ever had was the one right in front of me. That's the most important case. And when if you're fortunate enough to sit on the governor's council to represent District 2, the most important case I will have is the one that's in front of me. And you do it that way. And that's how you have to do it. And you do that over time. And that's how a particular counselor, one, gets confidence with people in their district. And then you have to be somebody that can interact with your other counselors. You have to have relationships with the other counselors. And over time, there can be a culture on the council. We're going to raise the bar a bit. We're going to expect more of the nominees, and the hearings will reflect that, and the public will get that. And that's how you get confidence in that third independent branch of government, the judicial branch. So people will know it's different from the other two branches of government.
You have, throughout our conversation, talked about your background and your qualifications, but I would like you to pull out perhaps a few of the primary reasons why you think you are qualified to serve on the Governor's Council.
Okay, by way of background, first, I'm an attorney. I founded a law firm. I was appointed by Governor Weld at a pretty early age. I served for 17 and a half years.
I'm sorry, you said you were appointed at an early age. Do you want to share that early age?
Yeah, 36.
Okay.
36. I served for 17 and a half years. While a judge, I served as a first justice. I served on the appellate division of the district court. I had a lot of assignments where, for example, when you're a first justice, you have to deal as you're the head administrative person in a courthouse, and you're the trial court representative on HR issues in the courthouse. You deal with the unions. You have different constituencies there. I had the attorneys, of course, but the attorneys are defense attorneys and members of the staff of the elected district attorney. We have the clerks. We have separate unions for the clerks, separate unions for probation department, separate unions for the court officers. Most courthouses are in county buildings where you're dealing with county commissioners. You have to know how to get along. In those different capacities, I showed I knew how to deal with people and get the job done. I have served in my town as an elected member of the Board of Selectmen. Back then you called it a selectman. Now they call it a select board. After that, I was the elected town moderator for 8 terms before I became a judge. Governor, after I left the bench, I was the appointed town manager in the town of Stoughton for 2 years. I was appointed as a town administrator in the town of Avon for 4 years. I've practiced law the whole time. Governor Baker in 2002 appointed me as the chairman of the State Ballot Law Commission. I served as the chairman of the State Ballot Law Commission until 2024 this year, where I gave that up so I could run for this spot. I have been in the game. I have been in the court system. I have been a judge. I know what it's like to be a judge. I know what it's like to be in different courts. I've been in courts all over the Commonwealth. I know what it takes. I know how to do that job. I'm qualified for that job. That's why I'm running for it. I'm running for it because our institutions are under attack. The world my grandkids happen to be growing up in is a whole lot different world than the world I grew up in. And I want to do my part to make sure that we emphasize the rule of law, teach people what the Constitution's all about, what the whole point of it is, and show that by example by the decisions we make in court.
Mr. Crimmins, I can't think of a better way to leave this, but before we end this evening, how can people get in touch with your campaign?
Well, the amazing Dewey has me all in this high-tech world now. So we have a website, www.electcrimmins.com. We have a Facebook page. We even have a QR code. I thought it was an IQ test at first, but it's a QR code that gets you there. And we have those type of things that, electcrimmins.com will get you onto the website. We're on Facebook. We're, I don't think anyone has a problem getting in touch with me. The campaign office is at, in the same building I have my law office in. That's in Stoughton, 247 Washington Street, 02072. So people can get in touch with me by email, by snail mail, by the computer, and that type of thing. And, I'd love to respond to anyone who has a request for any information I can share with them. We've been working all over the 37 communities that comprise District 2. We have a function coming up a week from Wednesday where we get a chance to, meet some people and also do the worst part of campaigns, which is try to raise some money, that type of thing. But I've been working every day in those 37 communities. I'm happy to be in Ashland via this process with you, Makita, and I've been to Ashland already several times working on the campaign, and I'll be there again. But we're working hard, and I hope to earn the support of the voters in District 2. Thank you very much.
Mr. Crimmins, thank you so much for joining us on the Views Expressed. Remember that Election Day is? When's Election Day?
Well, the primary day is the day after Labor Day, which is September 3rd. And then Election Day, November 5th. So it's right around the corner.
Right. So it's right around the corner. So make sure that you view all of our candidates in our series. But thank you for watching and listening to this episode of the Views Expressed. Mr. Crimmins, thank you very much for coming by and speaking with us this evening. And again, we'll see you again soon here on the Views Expressed on WACA-TV. For everyone at the station, thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, Makita. My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.